Welcome to Democracy-ish. I'm Danielle Moody.
And I'm Wajatli. And in this Trump administration, nothing's working. Not my mic, not my internets, which is why we were late, Danielle. I blame Donald Trump and his incompetence.
It's okay. I blame him for pretty much everything in life. And when we do that, it's accurate.
Have you seen these shirts that I've seen everywhere now? And you don't even have to guess who they're talking about. And the shirt says, "Is he gone yet?" And we all know. We all know.
My favorite is "He's passing everything but away." Are like my favorite pieces.
But he's deteriorating in real time, Danielle. This is the key thing what people don't realize. We're going to talk about today's show how his mind is deteriorating, how he's lying, he's grifting, and how, folks, it seems like maybe this time, I know, fingers crossed. Maybe, just maybe, this might do him in some way capacity. People forget, Danielle, he's the oldest person to ever be elected. He's right. 79 years old, all right? And what infuriates me is the both sides, Biden. If Biden did a fraction of what Donald Trump has done in the past 6 months of the stuff that he said in the past week, Danielle, the corporate media coverage would be incessant. But we just normalize the fact that there's this doddering old man who's lying, who's forgetting the fact that he appointed the people that he appointed, that he's just ranting and raving that the economy and his policies are tanking. We're like, it's Donald. He'll become presidential.
He'll grow up at some point.
Oh, yeah, some point.
The women, in the Senate, Murkowski, and the other one that I can't stand, he'll learn his way around, because what I know about white cis hetero men who are rich and powerful is that they get to have adolescence perpetually until they die. It's like at some point, Waj, they'll grow into themselves. At some point, they will get better. At some point, they'll understand the seriousness of the job. The rest of us, however, need to be adults by the time that we are born. And we get no leeway. We get no grace. We get no understanding whatsoever. Nope. And even in our perfection, because today is Barack Obama's 64th birthday.
He's only 64? Wow.
Only 64. Even in our perfection, right? They have issue with that. Why are you so perfect? What about the tan suit? There's nothing that you could possibly do and offer. But Donald Trump can shit literally inside of the Oval Office, and they will say, wasn't it glorious? Wasn't that so Jesus-like? Like, that is where we are. So let's start off today. This is out of The Guardian. He has trouble completing a thought. Bizarre public appearance again casts doubt on Trump's mental acuity. So here we are. Joe Biden was hounded for his age-related gaffes, but Trump's increasingly strange behavior has largely been ignored. Donald Trump's frequently bizarre public appearances, which this month have seen the president claim wrongly that his uncle knew the Unabomber and rant unprompted about windmills, wind turbines, on his recent trip to the UK, have once raised questions about his mental acuity, experts say. For more than a year, Trump, 79, as you said, Waj, has exhibited odd behavior. So for him, it's just odd. At campaign events, interviews, in his spontaneous, because again, more leeway, spontaneous remarks, and at a press conference. Repeatedly drifts off topic. You mean loses his train of thought and loses his mind. During a cabinet meeting this month, when he spent 15 minutes talking about decorating and appears to misremember, because he gets to misremember, facts about his government and his life. Your take.
He's a 79-year-old man. I know many elders who have fantastic memories. Not trying to disrespect our seniors. However, folks, as we know, because we're human beings, as you age, there is oftentimes some deterioration physically and mentally. It happens. This is a 79-year-old man whose family has a history of dementia. Before that, he's also a serial liar. There was recorded that there was about 31,000 false or misleading statements he said when he was a young buck in his first administration, right? And now we know, Danielle, he has these cankles, right? These cankle issues. And I feel like these cankle issues are showing up. I mean, and the fact that they actually admitted it, right? That he has these cankle problems. So I have a feeling that this man is not doing that well. And furthermore, guess what? Speaking about the lies, Republicans always lie all the time. But when they get power, they don't give an F, Danielle. They just flex. So, for example, tell them about what happened with IVF.
Oh, so here's the thing. So if you all remember, Trump said, didn't he say on the campaign trail that he was the IVF president? Didn't he? No. He called himself the fertility president. I'm my bad. He said that he would be the fertility president because if you all remember that during the campaign, it was Alabama that decided to ban IVF and say that essentially it went against God, right? And thank you, Jenna. It was going to be free IVF and that he's like, I think I'm going to be known as the fertility president. And I was just like, what you're known as is a rapist, but let us not digress. So campaign promise broken. Surprise, surprise. Trump has no plans to mandate IVF coverage, despite a pledge to make insurers cover in vitro fertilization. The White House is backing off those plans, but of course they are, Waj. White House is not pursuing a campaign promise to mandate health insurance pay for IVF, even though he pledged to do so multiple times on the 2024 campaign trail, according to the Washington Post. In order to mandate insurers pay for IVF treatments, it would require an act of Congress. Oh, we still have that? I didn't know. Two sources with knowledge of internal White House discussions told the paper that the administration does not intend to ask legislators to draft a bill making IVF coverage mandatory. The paper's sources also said that forcing insurers to cover IVF is not in the administration's plans. The White House's lack of action paints a stark contrast to the president's campaign promises. I'm sorry, did anyone believe him?
Apparently some people did, including corporate media and also some Democrats. This is what, okay, I give Republicans where credit's due. Two props to Republicans. Number one, if it's a knife fight, they will bring a bazooka and Democrats will bring a pencil and the Democrats will stab themselves in the face with a pencil. Republicans will kill everyone, including their own base. Number two, Republicans say whatever they have to say, Danielle, to get in power. Once they get in power, they don't give an F. They don't even care about their own base. They don't care about the polls. They don't care about any. They get it done. Whatever they want done, they get done. And especially with Donald Trump, a man who's no fidelity to the Constitution, rule of law, any limits, and now he has a complete backing of this corrupt Supreme Court. He just does what he wants to do, right? A big bag, beautiful bill, whatever the bill, the beautiful bill, billionaire bill, whatever it is, it has a negative 25 rating. It's just remarkable how much Americans hate it, right? For independents, it's like negative 44. Donald Trump doesn't care. Republicans don't care. Emil Bouvy literally has 900 DOJ lawyers say, please do not nominate this man. He's a supervillain. You have friggin' 3 whistleblowers. You got judges. Republicans like, Donald wants some? Okay, we don't give a shit. Lie after lie after lie after lie after lie. We're not going to touch Medicaid. Psych. We're going to go after Medicaid. $1 trillion cuts just to give permanent tax cuts to the billionaires, right? So this is what Democrats need to learn from, is when you get power, Danielle, flex the power. Flex the power. Who's stopping Donald Trump now? And especially when he has the House, the Senate, the media, and the Supreme Court.
I mean, no one is stopping him. Here's the thing, is that we knew this, Waj, we knew this. We said to people, oh, by the way, if Donald Trump ever gets back in power, if Republicans ever get back in power, understand that everything that they say that they would do, which, by the way, they laid out in a 900-page book that they bound, and anyone could download it for free at the Heritage Foundation. It's called Project 2025.
The world's most helpful supervillains, by the way, Danielle.
You couldn't be more helpful than, what are your plans? Can you put them in a book and then can you email it to me with an attachment? so that I don't have to wonder, like, what should be my response? Because I could literally just look down the list and say, let me pick an issue and then devise a plan to respond. But here we are 6 months in, and Democrats still have no idea where their ass is from their elbow, because they're just like, this is unprecedented. We've never seen anything like this. Yes, it's unprecedented. How many times do we have to say that? But to say that you've never seen anything like it, because they were advertising it for 2 years, the 2 fucking years that he was being indicted multiple times over. But by the way, there was an entire strategic blueprint that was put out that Democrats decided not to react to. And then he said, I don't have anything to do with that. My plan is called, Diet Coke Light, aka Project 47, which was just let me change the words and the, and then put in different words. And you see how that's so different? I don't understand why people don't get it. So when it's said here, wow, John Farvo, who I don't like, but whatever. I can't believe that Donald Trump would make a bunch of promises he never intended to keep just to get elected. Lied about covering IVF, lied about releasing the Epstein files, lied about green cards for immigrant students, lied about protecting dreamers, lied about not cutting healthcare benefits, lied about ending forever wars. By the way, the list goes on, but you can only put up so many characters.
I think John had to feed his family also, so he had to step away. He's like, I got things to do. And this is, folks, people always forget, this is only the first 6 months, right? This is the type of generational damage that has been done in the 6 months, Danielle, is something that is so staggering. I know we've talked about it before, but it's worth mentioning because, it's like living in a horror movie where the people are warned. Maybe, I don't know, it's living like in an Old Testament like tragedy where the people are repeatedly warned by the prophets, hey, don't do this. And the people are like, let's do this. And then like one plague comes and a second plague comes and a third plague comes and a fourth plague comes and a fifth plague comes. And then they keep effing up. And like, maybe this is a human condition, Daniel. Like we're like, just like some part of us, or some like 30 to 40% of us are always doomed for self-destruction in the United States of amnesia. Like people forget that Donald Trump was already president for 4 years. He was terrible, Danielle. He was a terrible president who lied to the American people during the first pandemic. And guess what? Eventually over 1 million people died. The economy tanked. Like before, they did their own mini version of the beautiful billionaire bill, right? They added $2 trillion to the debt. It did not spruce up the economy, right? He did executive order after executive order. Oh, he also did a violent insurrection, showed you he does not give an F about anything or anyone, corrupt as hell. And then you had Biden, there are weaknesses with the Democratic Party and with Biden and Israel, but you had a choice with Kamala Harris. And Kamala Harris, competent woman. You might not be passionate about her, excited about her. Who cares? You got a competent Black Indian woman or, a corrupt old criminal who at the time would have been and is now the oldest person ever elected. And people are like, let's go with the old criminal. I mean, if we survive and if there's a turn towards some type of normalcy, but there's going to be so much damage, folks. I can't wait to read the history books about how future generations try to understand the complete brain fart of an entire country that decided to destroy itself, Daniel. Again, I don't know if we're ever going to be alive or if this country is going to turn, but I'm just being hopeful here.
And, I hate to be the bearer of bad news on a Monday, but I'm going to pause on your hopefulness and offer some very salient truth. The Smithsonian decided not to include that Donald Trump has been impeached not once but twice. The Trump administration said, we want that removed. And the Smithsonian, right? Our librarians, our holders of truth and history for this country. What did they say over the weekend, Wash? Okay. We'll remove the impeachment. We'll remove that ever happened in real time. But
you see yesterday?
What?
They said, oh, no, we'll bring it back under pressure.
So here's the thing. They were so willing, Waj. They were so willing. to go along with the get along and rewrite history in front of our very eyes. Over the weekend, who else is gone? PBS, 60 years, providing our children and our elderly and everyone in this country with information, with entertainment that was free. And they are gone because Republicans spent 25 years trying to defund them, and now it has been a success. And so in front of our eyes, so you talk about, well, in the history books, maybe, kinda, at some point, and I'm saying, I don't know if we will have books, one, and I don't think that history will be taught. I think that we will have classes that have classrooms that have pictures of Donald Trump as the emperor, right? And they will have created, long gone will be the Pledge of Allegiance, and it will be the Pledge of Fealty, the Pledge of Loyalty to Donald Trump. We will see that in the next few years. Look, I don't mean to be the bearer of bad news on a Monday, but let me just be really clear, right? We are watching them erase history and replace it with their own words and replace it with their own lies. And unless the public forces some type of backlash, everyone is happy from higher education institutions to networks to just change the narrative. So do you believe that your kids, right, are going to get the kind of education, whether it comes from TV, whether it comes from online, that they actually need? I don't think so.
Well, speaking about PBS, I mean, let's take a second to talk about it. Like, there's there's generations, and I'm assuming many people who are watching us are part of these generations that used to come home from school like I did when we were young, and we used to learn by watching Sesame Street, PBS, Big Bird, Count Chocula. Now these kids will have Kash Patel's children's books, right? NPR and PBS in particular, folks, as Danielle, briefly mentioned, so many millions of Americans are actually dependent upon PBS for their news, right? Especially rural America. And what they want people to do is live in darkness. And they want them to live in an ahistorical America in which the only history that matters is the history that is told to them by right-wing media. I think, as I've always said, we have lost about 25 to 30% of America, 25 to 30%. Now, this is where I'm hopeful. Not all of them, but 25 to 30%. And I do believe, I will not be surprised if in 25 to 30% of America, you go to their homes and you talk to them in their circles, and they have a completely upside down version of the Trump era, much like they have a completely upside down mythical romanticized fiction about the Civil War era. What do they call it? The lost cause, right? They have complete narratives and fake histories to try to rationalize white Southerners enslaving black people, right? They had to do a complete rewrite of history that would make them somehow look like victims. The same thing will happen with Donald Trump. Perpetual fantasy, MAGA fantasy industrial complex that I talked to Jared about a couple of days ago, right? Mm-hmm. Something to fuel complete perpetual white grievance and victimhood. So I think you're right. I think we've lost those 30% for my lifetime. I don't see it coming back, especially because with the complete destruction of corporate media and education, right? We all live in our different realities, which is part and parcel of the Republican project. Yeah, yep. That's why they want to dismantle Department of Education, because they're the kids are being indoctrinated in schools. So they're going to have their own little schools, private schools, charter schools, right? Media, everyone chooses their own reality now, right? The complete collapse of just basic news channels that we used to watch. There's no more water cooler conversations anymore, folks, because there's no shared reality. The only thing you can have a water cooler conversation about, if you're lucky, is sports, because it's live and it's happening in real time, right? But other than that, we all live in our own realities, which is why you need the majority to not bend the knee. You need the majority to say F you. You need the majority to say, I'm not going to do both sides. You need the majority to say, no, Donald Trump was impeached. In fact, he's been impeached more than any other president in history. In fact, he's a twice impeached criminal vulgarian who lost the 2020 election. Why truth is so important, and why the rest of us, and we have the numbers, have to speak out, Danielle, at every single moment, whether it's on social media, in our families, and simply give a truth bomb, figurative truth bomb. And you could see that Donald Trump is collapsing in real time because the lies are becoming more ferocious, more pathetic, and more obscene. For example, folks, we know, and I couldn't talk to Daniel about this because Daniel was thankfully a normal human vacationing on Friday. The job numbers came out. The job numbers ain't looking
There you
bueno
go.
for the
And
United States of
the
America.
job numbers and the drug prices.
And the drug prices, right? So first, let's get to the drug prices. Tell us about this is the man. 49% of Americans said, you know what? This man will make things better. This is what he said. The words that came out of his mouth, Daniel.
Right. Let me see if the video will play.
President, what advice do you have for Republicans on Capitol Hill heading into midterms? What do they need to do? What can they do to, hold?
Well, one of the things they're going to be talking about pretty soon are the tremendous drop in drug prices. We've cut drug prices by 1,200, 1,300, 1,400, 1,500%. I don't mean 50%. I mean 1,400, 1,500%. Because we're going favored nations. We want the same price as Europe gets. We want the same price as other country gets. And over the years, 25, 30 years ago, it started where they were charging us much more. And I put an end to it, with a letter that you saw last week. So I think that's going to be a point. I don't know how anybody could win an election if they're on the other side of that issue. So we'll be dropping drug prices. It'll start over the next 2 to 3 months by 1,200, 1,300, and even 1,400% and 500%, but not just 50% or 25%, which normally would be a lot, because the rest of the world pays much less for the identical drug, and we're going to be paying the same thing. We're going to have a favored nations. We will pay as low as the lowest nation in the world.
It's even worse because I didn't see the entire clip, Danielle. It's even worse. I thought you had actually accidentally pressed a replay on it. I'm like, oh no, that's the entire clip. Wow. It was bad already, Danielle. Don't get me wrong, but I did not hear the entire clip.
You will pay, we've cut it by 1,200, 1,500, a billion percentage, trillion. Let's just start throwing a bunch of numbers out like we are in,
like a kid throwing spaghetti at the wall.
It's a million percent. It's 750. So are we going to pay negative for like negative dollars for drug prices? Like what is a 1,200% cut in something?
The drug companies are going to pay you money for buying
Yeah. Because that's basically what Donald Trump is saying. It makes absolutely no sense. There is zero follow-up. But I just want to remind folks that when Joe Biden just, maybe several months ago, folks, a year ago, wanted and won to cap insulin at what was it, like $35? Didn't Republicans vote to raise the price back up? Right? Because guess what? They were all bought and sold by the pharmaceutical companies. So here is Donald Trump now, after his party voted when Joe Biden was in office, when he capped insulin, which I want to say a majority, millions of Americans are on insulin because of diabetes, because our food is killing us. When he capped it, they said, whoa, that's crazy. You want people to be like healthy and live? No, because the pharmaceutical companies are paying them to ensure that people stay sick, because folks, that's where the money is. So for Donald Trump to then come out and just say, we've cut drug prices by 1,200, 1,300, he's an auctioneer. It doesn't make any sense. And blah, 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 1,700 and blah, 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 what about? And
well, 1,700, 1,500, 1,900, 2,000, 2,000, 2,500, 2,500, 3,000, cutting drug prices by 3,000%. Sold. And he just gets back on Air Force One.
I tell you, if I were a reporter in this pool now, because you have no journalistic integrity, I would be like, oh, that sounds great. But why didn't you cut it by 3,000% and just let it hang in the air?
But, you made a really good point, Danielle, in that we're going to show another clip also. There was no follow-ups to any of this.
Zero.
I mean, imagine being a reporter there and the president of the United States saying something like that. And it's not like he just did like a simple, 1 second gaffe, folks. Try to be fair. He went on for a good 20 seconds. Like it wasn't just a gaffe. Like sometimes you're speaking and you say, we're going to cut by I meant 10%. No, 1,500, 1,600, 1,700, 1,800, 1,900. You circled back around it. And there's a pool of reporters there. And not a single word, not a single, what do you mean by that? Or how do you cut prices exactly by 2,000%? Not a single question.
Not a single question. My math teacher would have been appalled. Here we go with the jobs.
We're seeing phenomenal numbers in terms of the business we do with other countries and the business we do within our own country. I mean, really phenomenal numbers. We'll be announcing a new statistician sometime over the next 3-4 days. We had no confidence. I mean, the numbers were ridiculous, what she announced, but that was just one negative number. All of the numbers seem to be great. And so we'll see how that comes out. And if you remember, just before the election, this woman came out with these phenomenal numbers on Biden's economy. Phenomenal numbers. And then right after the election, they announced that those numbers were wrong. And that's what they did the other day. So it's a scam, in my opinion. My opinion is it's just additional scam.
On Russia, Mr. President.
What are you talking about? The jobs numbers that came out that show that we are not adding at when anyone was predicting, we're not adding jobs, right? Because the economy is what is the word? Contracting, right? We're not adding jobs right now. Like every time that the jobs reports come out, the number is lower and lower than what they said. So for Donald Trump, and again, I'm a reporter, I'm in the press pool, and I'm saying, oh, it's a scam? Is everything a scam? Because didn't you just basic follow-up questions.
What do you mean? What do you mean it's a scam?
What do you mean it's a scam? Like, so whose numbers because I would argue that Fox reports the same. So whose numbers are a scam? And you're going to get a new statistician. Where are they from? Trump University? They graduated from Trump University with a doctorate in fuckery?
It goes back full circle, actually, because what's common to us might not be common to other people. As Danielle was saying, right, her skepticism, for those who are joining us, about the future, holding Trump accountable, they're rewriting history. And, George Orwell said in his book, 1984, he was writing that Big Brother's final, most essential command was not to believe the evidence of your eyes and ears, to control the truth, to defer the truth to Big Brother, to the authoritarian, to King, to Daddy, outsource it all, right? Trust me, trust my narrative, trust my vision. I'm your helper. Everyone who's against me is against you. So when I tell you that these numbers are lies, trust me. Don't trust the deep state. When I tell you I won the 2020 election, trust me. Don't trust the deep state. When I tell you all these lies about big beautiful bill, trust me. Not the fact that you died or about to die because you don't have access to Medicaid and can't afford insulin anymore. Trust me. This is what happens in authoritarianism. This is what happens during fascism, right? And again, no follow-ups. None. Folks, what happened was this. The BLS, Bureau of Labor Statistics, last week, the commissioner, who's a doctor, did what she always does. She just released the numbers. That's all she did. They have the raw data. They released the numbers without fear or favor. Guess what happens? The numbers came back. No bueno. Just really troubling lack of job growth, especially in the private sector. So the markets are freaking out, rightfully so, because that signals yet again that we might be heading towards a recession. Stock market has its worst closing of any week since the pandemic, since 2020. Oh, who was president then? Donald Trump. It seems that his tariffs and his trade wars are no bueno. Now we're feeling it because the prices of everything going up, because tariffs are taxes that are paid by consumers. So note the trade war has not yielded anything because Trump always chickens out. More and more tariffs. Tariffs are taxes paid by who? The people, right? Moody's has downgraded our credit rating during Trump's second administration. The same thing as like anyone else who has a credit rating, your FICO score, right? It gets harder to get loans. People are, see you as less reliable. So America, for the first time, Moody's has downgraded our credit rating. Credit rating is down. Tariffs, trade war. Oh yeah, big beautiful bill, the billionaire bill, which adds $3.3 trillion to the debt for permanent tax cuts for the rich, takes it away by doing $1 trillion cut to Medicaid. Good luck, folks. Wait till midterms once they get implemented. And it's not just Medicaid cuts, Danielle. They're also going after Affordable Care Act. they're also going to be kicking off a whole bunch of people off their insurance. What do you think is going to happen? Rural hospitals are going to shut down. Nursing homes are going to shut down. People are going to die. But Danielle, tell us this beautiful economy. What's been happening so far?
Oh, everything is going really super well. The billions of dollars in additional costs passed on to American families in July because of Trump's tariffs. You have places like Procter and Gamble that are not even being hit by the tariffs, that are raising prices just because what? They fucking can. And who's going to stop them? You just take a look at this. Tariff revenue rose in July. Monthly government revenue from customs duties and certain excise taxes. Look at it, folks. Look, from 2021 until now, look at it, 29.6. And just to go back, in additional cost passed on to American families, because what is this? It is the tariffs that they keep using instead of just saying a consumer tax on Americans. That's what it is. It is a consumer tax. And because you have those companies that are outright hit by it, but then others that are going to do what people do during quote unquote natural disasters, they'll just price gouge. So when you would go to a gas station, when you go get water or a fucking generator, and it's a hurricane or a tornado or what have you, and you have those people that price gouge, that's what these corporations are doing, whether before they're hit with tariffs or if they're going to be hit by tariffs at all, because they know that they can get away with it. Because guess what? We no longer have consumer protections, right? We no longer have that, because a part of Doge's big bad cuts with the chainsaw and the fucking drug maniac, they decided to gut that as well. So when you look at this, and this is, Waj, not even the full, like you said, the full breath. This is just the beginning. This is just the beginning of what our economy is going to look like, on top of just saying again, we don't have any fucking jobs. The jobs, folks, people are being fired at record numbers.
Yep.
The market is flooded with competition. And guess who that benefits? It benefits the CEOs, because they can decide, you know what we're not going to do, because everyone is so desperate. We're not going to add to your 401k. We're not going to give you health care. We're not going to do X, Y, and Z, because you'll be lucky to what? Have a job. Always ask yourself, in this type of crisis that is being manufactured, who benefits? And it's always going to be the rich.
And also yesterday, folks, it came out that tourism to Las Vegas in this year alone has dropped 11%. Now, some people might say, okay, well, it's only Las Vegas, right? But Las Vegas, that 11% drop in tourism revenue is another signal that recession is knocking, right? And Brian has a good point. Vegas is a canary in the coal mine. When people stop spending there, it means they're cutting back everywhere. Las Vegas depends on tourism, right? Hotels, food, entertainment, gambling. I know the right wing were like, well, Las Vegas has priced itself out, right? Price gouging. Yes. Okay, it's super expensive. I get it. But it was always been expensive. It was expensive during Biden's time. It was expensive during Trump one time, right? The fact that 11% has gone down is not an outlier, because what we tried to tell you on the show also is we've already lost about, how much is it? $14 billion in the first 6 months in lost tourism revenue. That number is going to be predicted $49 billion in this year alone. Why? Because nobody wants to come to the United States of America. We already said at the beginning of, I think it was our show in May or June, that they showed the data, and that tourism has gone down to the United States from Europe. It has gone down from Latin America. It has gone down from Canada. Like literally, you see Trump becoming president, and the number goes like this. No, the question is why, folks? Well, as I've said before, and I have a family, if there was a 5% chance that I could go to any country, let's just name a country, France. And if I leave my passport in the hotel, as I sometimes do, because I don't want to drop my passport, right? It's your passport. So especially if I'm going to like the restaurant and I'm with my family, I'm brown skinned, I have an American accent, and there's a 5% chance that masked armed agents might mistake me for an undocumented immigrant, and because they have to meet a quota, they detain me. Let's just say they only detain me for 6 hours in a foreign country where I don't speak the native language, and then there's fear and my family has no idea what's happening, and then I have to deal with like the local, like, attorneys, and they say, okay, it's a mistake. And then they release me at, I don't know, 1 a.m. And I go back to the hotel and I say, okay, kids, don't worry. Baba was just like, detained for 6 hours in a foreign country. But hey, we have 7 more days here in France. It's going to be a great time. Would you come to that country, Danielle, if there was even a 5% chance that happened?
No, I would not. Because why? Why would you risk it? Because you just laid out the best case scenario. The best case, it's just a few hours. But what we have talked about on this show over the last several months is that it's not a few hours. It's actually a few weeks. If you're lucky. If you're lucky and you came from Canada, it's a few weeks. If you're lucky and you came from Germany, it's a few weeks that you're living in a shithole, right? Eating moldy, wet food. If you're lucky, if you're being fed to begin with, not being sexually assaulted and beaten and abused and having lights on 24 hours a day. These are the reports that are coming out from these detention centers. It's not like going to Club Fed, right? Nope. Oh, I'm just sitting around and I'm watching Real Housewives of whatever because of the cable channel. No, these are unregulated detention centers that if you're lucky, you're not being sent to Alligator Auschwitz. So do you want to fucking roll the dice and say to yourself like, you know what? America's always been on my bucket list. By bucket list, it may be your last thing on your bucket list. And I don't think that you want that. I don't think that you want that. So yes, for folks that say, oh, Vegas doesn't matter. Vegas is the place that most organizations and companies hold their conferences, right? Whether you are a nonprofit or whether you are a for-profit entity, Las Vegas is one of the cheapest places to do that. There are so many hotels, pools, nightlife, this, that, and the other thing. It is a one-stop shop. So with Vegas, which by the way, nearly lost everything during COVID, because the other thing with Vegas is that everything is indoors. So the last time Vegas saw this kind of numbers hit was during COVID.
Ain't no COVID. Well, there's COVID, but there's not a pandemic right now.
Right, but there's not a pandemic. So that's what I'm saying. So the last time you saw Vegas losing, right, in terms of revenue was during COVID because it was one of the unsafest places to be because everything is inside. The gambling, the this, the that, the ventilation, everything is inside. So you're comparing right now what is happening to what happened during a global health pandemic. And Donald Trump is telling us that we're hiring a statistician to blow smoke up our asses because we can't trust the numbers because they're all a scam. Well, you can trust the fact that when you arrive in these places, I was in Vegas in January and they told me, I'm talking to the Uber drivers and I'm saying, how is business going? Like, are you concerned about? And they're like, we're very concerned because we have not rebounded since COVID. And now Donald Trump is coming here and we're very concerned with what is going to happen and this was in January before he started the mass ICE detentions.
Whoopsie. Well, Nevada, one of those swing states that, decided to go Trumpy and then has these 2 Democratic senators, Cortez Masto and Rosen, that decide because they're so afraid that they decide always to lean to the right. And the reason why we have Emile Bouvet, one of these supervillains, as a permanent judge is because those 2 Nevada senators, folks, Rosen and Cortez Masto, decided not to endorse Joe Biden's sterling nominee, which was 45-year-old Adil Amanji, a Muslim American who was then smeared by the right wing with a horrific, disgusting, ugly, racist smear campaign. And guess what, folks? Cortez Masto and Rosen of Nevada joined Joe Manchin and refused to vote for this man. They literally succumbed to what they knew was bad faith right-wing talking points. And this was when Democrats had the majority in the Senate, 51-49. So they succumbed to it. There was a vacancy. And guess who filled the vacancy with Emile Bouvet? Republicans. So, just saying.
In the meantime, just to remind you that Donald Trump has about as much allegiance, right, as does the wind, right, which will blow in any which direction. Because while all of this is happening, you're saying to yourself, is there no one that is talking to this man and saying, the job numbers suck. This is bad. Things are not going well. Your poll numbers are terrible. But who is Donald Trump talking to, Waj? Who is consistently inside of the Oval Office?
What is your relationship with Laura Loomer? Oh, the unhinged bigot and racist, the absolute nutty Islamophobe who looks like Jigsaw, the person who handcuffed herself to Twitter, a person who was even so extreme that even Marjorie Taylor Greene says that she's a freak. What kind of influence does that Laura Loomer have in the White House? Trump. I mean, I know she's seen as a radical, right? But I think Laura Loomer is a very nice person. I've known her for a long time. And, personally, I think she's a patriot. And she gets excited because of the fact that she's a patriot and she doesn't like things that's going on. And she thinks things are bad for the country. I like her, okay? That Laura Loomer. That Laura Loomer who has been invited.
What kind of influence with Laura Loomer? What kind of influence does she have in the White House?
I think she's very nice. I mean, I know she's known as a radical right, but I think Laura Loomer is a very nice person. I've known her for a long time. And, personally, I think she's a patriot. And she gets excited because of the fact that she's a patriot. And she doesn't like things going on that she thinks are bad for the country. I like her. Okay?
President,
That
I bet you do.
Yep.
I bet you do.
I wonder why he likes her. And then remember, she was with him, really close to him up to the election, and then she wasn't. And then this woman, folks, go Google Laura Loomer. The fact that the president of the United States, any president of the United States, would say that she's a patriot and align himself with her, that would have been a scandal. If Obama had done this, that would have been the scandal that lasted his entire administration. That's how much of a freak and a hate monger she is. Even more extreme than the usual freaks of MAGA, right? The fact that he said that, number one, the fact that allegedly they were banging, number two, and the fact, number three, since she became president, she's visited the White House twice. And folks, she's had 30-minute meetings with the president of the United States. And this is what makes it even worse. This freak, he took her counsel on how to respond to the first Signalgate controversy. Not his own national security counsel, her counsel. And she said, I want you to move these two people. And so Laura visited. And after Laura visited and gave me advice, then he moved the two people. So he didn't listen to his own team. He brought in Laura Loomer. Laura Loomer told him what to do, and then he did it. And then just, I think it was last week, she said, had very productive meetings at the State Department, and she has a photo of herself at the State Department on X. I just want people to sit with this. This is not normal. This is not normal. This is the United States of America. This is worse than idiocracy, folks. And this woman is one of the most hateful. I mean, you think you're garden variety Islamophobe and anti-Muslim bigot? This is the woman who just 2 weeks ago, it's been 2 weeks, when the New York City police officer Islam was one of the 4 people who was killed by that shooter, right? Before it was even, any facts came out, she blamed the shooting on Muslims and Middle Easterners. And then after it was revealed that the shooter was actually a U.S. citizen, not an immigrant, and this football player, right, with CT, most likely from Nevada, she still doubled down on Muslims and Middle Easterners, and then somehow brought Zoran Mamdanian. That's how much of a freak she is. She literally just did that a week and a half ago, Danielle, and he said this.
Just FYI, before the Trump regime, in order to get, I just want folks to understand, you don't walk off the street and get an audience with the president of the United States.
Nope.
Like the amount of background checks, like the amount of times that I have been fortunate and blessed to be at the White House over the course of my political career is a lot. The amount of background checks that one needs in order to step foot in that door used to be extraordinary. But now anyone and their mother who has a fucking Trump Bitcoin and a fucking t-shirt that says, I love Trump, gets to walk right in the front door.
Yep.
Because guess what they don't also do? Share the fucking White House logs, which used to be a part of national record of who came in and out of that White House. I mean, I just because the average folks are just oh, maybe this is no, it is not okay. It is fucking bananas that this woman who is affiliated with no organization, no company, had worked on no campaign, did nothing other than be a white nationalist on Twitter.
A conspiracy theorist who's such a freak that even MAGA says she's a freak. Danielle
gets to sit down with the president of the United States for 30 minutes whenever she wants.
I'm glad we spent a little time on it, because that was news for maybe 3 minutes. And of course we move on, because the news that was trending yesterday was Charlemagne the God. Charlemagne the God is like this media host, commentator, host the Breakfast Club. And everyone was wondering, why the hell on a weekend is the president of the United States? First of all, he posted about him. And second of all, he went on a rant. Why is he ranting about Charlemagne the God? What is happening? We found out what was happening. We'll fill in the details. But this is Donald Trump on Charlotte. This is the important stuff, folks. As people are are terrified of the recession, not having jobs, paying more for eggs, planes are going down, measles are going up. Why is Charlemagne the God allowed to use the word God when describing himself? Can anyone imagine the uproar if I use the name? Also, Trump, I'm the chosen one. Danielle, tell people why he was obsessed with Charlemagne the God.
So I just need to say this, a little bit of background on Charlemagne the God. So if you live in New York City, if you live in the tri-state area of New York City, Charlemagne has been a fixture in hip hop culture for quite some time, right? He is a media personality. He is and has ingratiated himself because him and his co-host DJ Envy, and then they have like a rotating woman co-host, have one of the biggest audiences in traditional young Black American circles in the country. Their national audiences into the tens of millions, right? So if you heard them, if you've not heard them during the political campaign, everyone makes a stop on the Breakfast Club, which is this nationally syndicated radio show that, again, is very much engineered towards hip hop culture, Black culture, and young folks. So if you're trying to get that vote, right, you're going on this show. Now,
Kamala went there for folks who don't.
Let me just provide an asterisk. Charlemagne the God, not a politico, is not a news person, right? But somehow has been anointed as giving voice to the Black community in ways that make me fucking disgusted and radically uncomfortable, because he's also a misogynist. Those are my points, asterisk. Okay. So Laura, I don't know.
Who gives a shit? Who cares?
Who gives a shit? Everybody's saying in the comments how much you curse now and that it's all my fault. Just side note. So,
well, Danielle watches Star Wars. I now use like minor curse words.
So Lara Trump had Charlemagne on her show, or did she go on Charlemagne's show? Because I couldn't remember which it was. Did she go on his show or he went on her show?
I don't remember.
It doesn't really matter, folks. But the fact of the matter is,
I'll find out as you're speaking. I'll try to get people the facts.
Okay. So Charlemagne essentially runs the receipts on Donald Trump.
He went on her show on Fox.
Okay. And no idea, why they would let him on the show. Just to be very clear, because again, Charlemagne doesn't really give a fuck. He's not trying to be in anybody's circles. He's not trying to, tiptoe around things. And he says a lot of hot shit. And I just want to play this clip of Charlemagne on his own show.
No, this is on Daily Show.
On the Daily Show, talking about Donald Trump and dementia. Another asterisk, he's not a doctor, okay? He's not a doctor, and he's not a politico, and he's not a lawyer, and he's not a news person. But much in the way that Joe Rogan has captured, the right, in some circles, Charlemagne the God has captured hip hop, young, Black and people of color audiences. I did not see that.
The Daily Show, the writers did a good job, and that was good. That was solid. I share my Charlemagne, I think, is an opportunist first and foremost. He plays all the sides. But here that was a good clip. And that's why, folks, that's why Donald Trump was triggered. Not because, I think what he said was, you ran Lara Shaw on Fox and, you're saying some nice things about me. And then you turn around and do this. And so this is what the man is concerned about, instead of, like we mentioned, freaking Americans not being able to afford their eggs and groceries, and tourism going down, and freaking measles going up, and like no one coming to the United States of America, and people being terrorized. This, Danielle, this is what concerns the president of the United States of America, the commander in chief.
I mean, look, folks, it's wild, right? And some of you may say to yourself, so in the time that all of this is happening, that Waj and Danielle are running down all of these lists, what do you think Democrats are doing, right? Where are Democrats, particularly, when the past couple of weeks, for the first time, we've reported on the fact that the New York Times is actually referring to Israel's assault on Gaza as a genocide, that we are actually starting to see that the voters, right, are no longer on the side of Israel. We're seeing all of these things happen. What are Democrats doing? How are they optimizing this moment? Waj, are they optimizing the moment?
A few of them, and we'll talk about it, are trying, but still the establishment and the leaders have not come around. Dylan Williams, who actually I think used to work for J Street, said 70% of Democrats. I mean, this is stunning, Danielle. For the old heads, you'll appreciate this. For the younger heads, you might not. In my lifetime, the fact that I'm saying this in 2025 as a 44-year-old man, 70% of Democrats have an unfavorable view of Israel. That is wild. And that number is corresponding around the Pew poll, Gallup. We've also seen CNN. Why? Why, folks? It's not due to anti-Semitism. It's because they have seen a genocide live streamed to their phones for the past year and a half. It's not just Democrats, right? There's also a split in MAGA with a lot of America First people, right? You see Tucker Carlson, Marjorie Taylor Greene, folks, is on this issue. I read like a post of hers and I wanted to throw up in my mouth because I'm like, I hate this timeline that's making me agree with Marjorie Taylor Greene, right? She's like, I can't see kids being killed. Christians are being killed. Churches are being bombed. This is wrong, right? So you're losing even MAGA First type folks, and you're losing the majority of your base. Since Danielle have been talking for several months, they've been saying this for the entire year, right? This goes back to last year, Danielle. And now the numbers are even more extreme. So you would think when given an opportunity, especially right now, when only 8% of Democratic voters, according to Gallup, support Israel's war, where Benjamin Netanyahu is a war criminal, when literally the world is against Israel's genocide, where you've lost the culture, the youth, you think this is a slam dunk. And especially when the YouGov poll showed you the number one reason why many of your voters stayed at home and didn't vote was because of the genocide. And Biden is complicit along with Trump. I know people might not like hearing it. Those are the facts. It's Biden's genocide and Trump's genocide and Israel's genocide. Both Biden and Trump are complicit. So you have all the data. You have all the signs. You've known this for a year. Then last week, late at night, Bernie Sanders brought this bill, right, to stop arming Israel. For the first time ever, and this is the good news, for the first time ever, folks, a majority of Democratic senators, and if you include Bernie Sanders, who's independent but caucuses, it was 27 Democratic senators, which is remarkable, voted on this. I mean, folks, if you would have told me 5 years ago, 10 years ago, that 27 Democratic senators would publicly vote to stop funding Israel, I'm like, never in my lifetime. And even in this year, that number had gone up. It was like 15 a couple of months ago. So it went from 15 to 27. You would think wide open lane, Danielle. And also politically, Tucker Carlson, Steve Bannon, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and others aren't stupid. They realize this is a wide open lane. They see where the winds are going. So you want to jump on it, right, Danielle? Also not just politically and strategically, I don't know, morally, ethically, during a starvation, as 60,000 Palestinians have been killed, and that's an undercount. But 20 Senate Democrats voted with every Senate Republican to continue arming Israel. And many of these are the leaders. You want to bring out some names?
I mean, here are the names. It's right here. You have Bennett, Blumenthal, Booker, Cantwell, Coons, Cortez Masto, Fetterman, Gillibrand, who is this? I can't really see. Ossoff, Padilla, who we talked about, who was arrested by ICE agents a couple of weeks ago. Peters, Reed, Rosen, Wyden, Whitehouse, Schumer, Schiff. And folks, the reason why this AIPAC tracker is really helpful, because all of these people, they have gained hundreds upon hundreds of thousands, if not millions. Schumer, $1.7 million funded by AIPAC. Schiff, $6 million funded by AIPAC.
Wow.
Booker, 800,000 funded by AIPAC. The numbers range, but when you see the numbers, it is astounding. And again, what does it go back to? The Supreme Court, Citizens United, and the amount of money that you are allowed to put into political races and these PACs. And you say,
and Danielle,
yourself,
those three senators that you just mentioned, along with Coons, along with Cantwell, along with Jackie Rosen and Amy Klobuchar, and I might be missing one, were the Democrats who joined Republicans in taking a smiling photo with Netanyahu when he visited 2 weeks ago.
Right. And so I just want to say that bravo to Bernie Sanders for bringing not one, but two resolutions so that there is a record. Folks, that's the point of this. It was never to pass the resolution because they knew that it wasn't going to pass. It is to have a record. Who's on record? As Bernie Sanders was holding up starvation pictures of skeletal and bloated babies. Those are people's children that are dead or dying. And these people, because of the money that is funneled into their PACs, said that they do not care about starvation. They do not care about dying babies. They do not care about Israel's genocide. What they care about is their PAC. And that's
it's just bad politics now, Danielle. Like, it's just, I mean, forgive me for being this. First of all, folks, you should care because there's a genocide happening in real time. This is happening in our lifetime. We are witnessing with our money and our weapons and our diplomatic support, war criminals in Israel committing a genocide against the Palestinian people. Folks, if we shut off the pipe, we as the United States of America, Israel will not be able to continue the genocide. They depend on our weapons, and we give them international support. Literally, that's how linked it is. If we said no and shut down all the weapons, just shut off the pipe, right, to turn off the pipe, it's over. It's done. They're not suicidal. So I want people to understand that it is our money and our weapons that help Israel continue this active genocide against the Palestinian people, in which 60,000 Palestinians have died, and that's an undercount because the medical journal Lancet says that most likely 40% more have died. And you've seen the photos. Right. Democrats are asking you to reject the evidence of your own eyes and your own ears. The Israeli leaders themselves, for the last year and a half, especially since the summer, are open about their genocidal wishes and ideas. Listen to Smotrich and Ben-Gvir and Netanyahu. South Africa made its case against Israel to the international court by simply compiling their quotes. And that was last year. And now you're seeing these babies in phase 5 starvation, means that even if they don't die, they're going to have permanent damage. And then the people who are starving, the Palestinians without weapons, who gather at these food aid sites, what we found out is that the IDF soldiers have been commanded to shoot at them. So they're just sniping them. They're like, oh, they're all coming together at the food aid distribution site. Awesome. Killing field. The word killing field is not my word for it. It's an IDF soldier. He said it's a killing field. And this is what these Democrats in 2025, seeing this with their own eyes, looking at the poll numbers, Gallup, Pew, CNN, they decide, I'll still vote with Israel. It's disgusting. I mean, what else can we say, Danielle?
Honestly, nothing. And I do want to close out today because we're already over time because there was just so much news. And folks, Waj and I will pick this up on Wednesday on our Substack midweek check-in. But I do want to close out with some good news. because I want you to blow up this picture and take a look at what happened in Sydney, Australia over the weekend. Hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of Australians marched for Gaza over the weekend. Hundreds upon hundreds. They said it was over 300,000 people.
I was going for the number. I knew it was 300,000, but I just it was 300,000. I just wanted to check it.
300,000 people crossed
Sydney Harbour Bridge
in protest for Gaza. The world is changing. The world is shifting. And while somebody put in the chat and they said, look, recognizing Palestine as a state is not going to stop starvation. Not in that instant and in that moment, but the recognizing of Palestinian as the Palestinian state and Palestinian people will matter in the long term. Folks, I wish that 60,000 plus, because we know that the number is 40% higher, that 60,000 plus Palestinians did not have to die in the most horrific types of deaths in order to get the world to see Israel for who it is, for how they have been operating for decades upon decades upon decades. But sometimes it takes some of the most heart-wrenching, gruesome types of trauma for the world to actually take pause and say, what are we funding here? What are we allowing here? And the world, one country at a time, is saying, not on our watch, not with our tax dollars. We're not going to just lay down and allow this to continue. It matters. It does not put food or baby formula in the mouths of those children in this moment. But I tell you that these acts of rebellion and resistance, as they continue to grow in their numbers, they matter. Last words to you, Waj.
We might not have the money. We might not have the crypto. We might not have the missiles. We might not have the oligarchy, but we have the better story and we have the numbers. And that better story and the numbers marched in Sydney over the weekend, 300,000 strong. They were marching here at the No Kings rally. They have marched for BLM. They have marched for Me Too. They have marched for civil rights. Folks, remember, we have the numbers. And what we have seen is the resistance and the pressure actually makes these institutions cave. Smithsonian. Danielle mentioned that they caved to Donald Trump and they were about to rewrite history. They did rewrite history. They removed the mention of him as one of the impeached presidents, but because of the uproar, now they're saying, oh, my bad, we're bringing it back. And we're seeing these corporate law firms that bend the knee, right? The corporations that work with them, now they're moving away from them because people said, guess what? If you actually are going to work with these corporate law firms that bend the knee to Trump, we're not going to give you our money. And you've seen people turn away from Target and other stores. So you have a vote, you have your legs, you have your tongue, and you have your dollar. And in this country, the United States of America, the color that trumps all of the colors is the color green. So use whatever means you can to resist to fascism, because fascists come for everyone. This has been another episode of Democracy-ish. We went a bit long today. We started a bit late. I'm sorry there were some technical glitches on my end, but it worked out. Folks, we're live Monday and Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern time on Danielle Moody's fantastic, fantabulous YouTube show. If you have not been a subscriber, please subscribe. It's free. Danielle and me also have a Substack. I'm at the Left Hook. Daniel's at Damn Digest. And on Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern time, we do a midweek check-in on our Substack lives. And then we also posted later on. So we'll be there in 2 days. Folks, everything is without paywall. We do not charge anything. Everything is for free. We're independent. We don't bend the knee to anyone. So the few tips that you all give us on social media, like Susan, who's an amazing mod, Corina, $4, Barb, $5. On YouTube, if you're watching on YouTube, there's that oval with the ... You click on it, you can give a tip. It goes a long way. And if you can become a paid subscriber to Damn Digest and the Left Hook, it goes a long way. If you don't have the money, it's okay. just subscribe and share the wealth and the good news. And folks, please, oh please, whatever you do, be kind, be empathetic, and don't be a fascist.
We will see you back here. We'll see you on Substack on Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern. Folks, we appreciate you. We thank you so very much for continuing to show up and support this show and our work. We will see you back here soon.